the calm before the storm.
If I had to love one thing about Green Hills besides Uncle Tommy, Auntie Maddie, and you,
Began a young girl's voice.
it would have to be Jelly's donuts. Mama doesn't let me have sweets. She thinks that dried fruit or ricotta and berry smoothies are dessert. Sometimes Mama will try to put killer spinach in it.
She pulled a face and stuck her tongue out for the small alien creature to see. The young girl pinched her nose and shook her face, which earned a smile and a chuckle from her cousin.
That sounds very gross, Juju. Tom and Maddie would never traumatize me something like that. I'd be sick if they gave me a smoothie like that.
That's because you can have dairy, Sonic.
The two clinked their donuts together, toasting their success of a great afternoon together. In Sonic's opinion, it was the perfect day to spend some quality time with his favorite cousin outside, as well as grab a tasty treat from his favorite downtown bakery. Sonic Wachowski Hedgehog was more than excited last week learning he eavesdropped on the phone conversation that Maddie had with her sister one morning at breakfast, that Rachel and Jojo were coming over for a visit. News around the household was that Maddie's sister was strongly suggesting of relocating to Green Hills. Rachel's intentions were pretty mature. San Francisco was no place to raise a child. Living costs were too high and it seemed to always be full of unnecessary drama. And, of course, the traffic jams. Let's not forget about those pesky traffic jams. That's what he remembered the most since he last visited the city. The streets were always littered with cars and it was always difficult to maneuver through. The alien hedgehog didn't think to question her motives at all. Green Hills was, in his strongest opinion, the greatest place on earth. That, and the excitement in knowing that his family could grow very soon would make it even better. He thanked his lucky stars every day knowing that fate allowed him a second chance in life. He considered himself very lucky to have them in his life, even though it worried him a bit to be close to them.
So, do you think that you and Rachel are gonna move up here?
The hedgehog asked with a mouthful of donut.
I hope so. Mama says that she loves spending time with your mom and wanted it to be closer. She always says that spending time with family is important. Maybe she wanted to move to be close to her little sister. If we get to come here, you and I could go to school together. We can have no days like this. Like that sake. Oh, beans.
Sonic froze, nearly dropping his donut on the table.
My mom.
Yeah, Auntie Maddie's your mom and Uncle Tommy's your dad. Isn't that what you call them?
That was a good question. What did he call them? Sonic knew that full well that he was adopted. He was quite conscious of the decision that Tom and Maddie made. If getting a completely decorated room in a mangled house wasn't enough clarification that he deeply mattered to them, then obtaining special documentation from the US government to make him legally a part of their family was the big eye-opener. Sonic was mindfully aware of them being guardians of sorts to him. It was almost too surreal to be true. He had always dreamed of them all being a family. Tom and Maddie made it a point from that day on that they felt the emptiness of a Sonic-shaped hole in their hearts. It wasn't until taking him in that they felt completed again. They both had considered themselves very lucky to have taken in the silly little alien from beyond the stars. Perhaps they were parental figures to him. But if they were parental figures to him, were they not his friends as well? It was a bright, sunny afternoon in the downtown area of Green Hills, Montana. The sun was shining, the birds sang, the sky was clear of any trace of clouds, and the town was filled with pedestrians heading to work or exploring the area. Green Hills had all of the cheesy, yet enjoyable, aesthetics that one would expect from a small town with a big heart. Sonic turned to look at the busy street, hoping that something on the street could give him the answer to Jojo's question. Crazy Car was across from them, passing out flyers and exclaiming some troubling nonsense that he had seen in the ski. Pretty typical stuff, the hedgehog concluded. It would be a normal day in town if he didn't do it. The space hog did give a sigh of relief when the townsfolk rejected the flyers. Both Tom and Sonic lucky that no one else caught onto what Crazy Carl was talking about. Everything was still under investigated and the hedgehog was sworn to not utter a word about it. Tom would have his tail if he uttered their investigations to anyone other than Wade. He gave a sigh, concluding that one day he'd have the answer. It might not be now. That was perfectly okay. In time he would have it all figured out. Sonic returned to reality and smiled at his cousin proudly.
They're a donut lord and pretzel lady. I'm their lovable space hedgehog.
Donut lord and pretzel lady. What does that mean?
Tom is the donut lord because he talks to donuts, and then he eats them when they get out of line. Maddie is pretzel lady because I'm convinced that she was born without bones due to bending and moving in crazy ways.
But if Auntie Maddie was born without bones, she'd be a pancake on the floor.
He paused and rapped his paws on the table to think.
Look, they're donut lord and pretzel lady. It's a proven science. You can argue with that.
You're a silly little alien.
Jojo finished the rest of her treat and laughed. Jojo hoped and prayed to move to the small town of Green Hills. San Francisco just didn't feel the same after knowing that a small alien hedgehog lived in the dinky, backwater town within Montana's Purple Mountains. San Francisco, as she told her mother, praying that she would agree, felt pretty boring and exhausting to live in. Plus, it wasn't as interesting anymore since hearing that Auntie Maddie and Uncle Tommy had a space creature living with them under the same roof. Jojo did admit that it was fun seeing a celebrity walk down the same street that she walked on, or hearing about her mother's many clients. Her mother worked in real estate, looking for summer homes and winter lodging. It was interesting, but not as interesting as living in a town with a supersonic hedgehog. As much as she liked being around friends and familiar places, Jojo felt like she had to constantly keep up with fashionable trends and appearances in order to fit in. It was like being with strangers rather than friends and acquaintances. If she learned anything from the tinny Elaine is that friends and family are important. She should surround herself with people that make her feel happy and want to help build herself up to success.
I really hope that Mama finds a house here. We could be next door neighbors and walk to school together and take the same classes. Or we could play a team sport together or even join some school clubs. That would be so cool.
It would be.
Sonic beamed, standing on the chair as he spoke.
But I don't go to school. Tom and Maddie homeschool me, I think. They're super smart, you know. Tom does coach my baseball team, though. Maybe you and I could join next season.
I don't really like baseball. I'm more of a soccer girl myself. Anything else I can get you to?
Asked an employee arriving to their table.
This is all going on Tom's tab again, right?
The kids turned to look at a pink-haired teen standing at their table. Amy Rosen, an employee of Jilly's, was one of the Space Hedgehog's favorite waitresses. Not only did she care about his allergies and what have you, but she was also the very person that delivered the freshly baked goods to the sheriff's department every other weekday. It was a small token that Jelly's Donut Shop did to thank the sheriff's department for all of their hard work, as well as save them from identity theft. Every trip that Emma made to the sheriff's department, she always made sure to slip the hedgehog some extra baked goods to take home in his backpack. Just like Tom, Jelly's Donut Shop was Sonic's guilty pleasure in desserts.
Your dad isn't going to be pleased with you if you keep adding to his bill. I imagine that I want you to help him pay for your half with your allowance or something.
Amy stated as she made a note on her notepad.
Tom isn't my dad.
Sonic protested.
Tom's the donut lord, and I think that we need another round of donuts. A chocolate donut with pink sprinkles, please.
Tom's going to donut. You're just like him.
Amy shook her head and smiled. She took the pencil from her ear, wrote a quick note, and took their empty plates.
Just some food for thought. Well, watch us, guy. Tom has no problems referring to you as such. He's very proud to call you his son.
The two thanked the young lady and continued their previous conversation. Even Emily Rosen thought of him as Tom and Maddie's son. If it came so easily to others, why did he struggle with it?
Maybe you could move in with us if you can find a house today.
Sonic asked quickly, trying to rid the thought from his mind.
The house is so big, you won't have to worry about finding a new place to live. We could all live in it together and be a big family.
I don't think that Mama likes Uncle Tommy very much. I don't know why though. Uncle Tommy's a hero.
He never understood it either. Tom was a nice guy. He had saved his life more than once. He had done so much for Maddie, the town, for himself, just about everyone. The young hedgehog couldn't wrap his head around it at all. Tom was an all-star, his hero even. How could someone hate him without an explanation? Just as Sonic was set to explore the quarry further, his heart turned to the sound of some heavy-set whiz roaring down the street and the ground trembling under his chair.
The sound?
He thought nervously.
Sound like, oh no. Gotta get away. Gotta get Jojo and myself away before he come.
He screamed in his mind.
He can be back? He couldn't.
Sonic! Hey, Sonic! It's alright?
The hedgehog turned, breathing heavily as he looked to Jojo. Sonic released his paws and tucked them into his person, questioning himself of his actions. Since moving in with the Wachowskis, he had always tensed up to certain noises, familiar noises, ones that he had wished to forget. Sonic's ears flicked violently, tracking down the sound of the ominous vehicle that sped in the distance. He gripped the table in a quick panic and scanned the road looking for something familiar to him, hoping deep down that it was just his mind playing tricks on him. Was it just him, or was it getting harder for him to breathe? He felt like it was. He could not draw in his breath quick enough. It was a fear that had formed over the last year. Large moving vehicles, such as semi-trucks, on the road never settled well with him. He hated triggers.
I haven't seen you startled by a Penske Truck before.
Jojo said with a frown.
Are you okay?
He gave a weary nod, releasing his breath.
Oh, thank goodness, a Penske Truck.
Sonic thought to himself.
Someone was moving to Green Hills.
That was rare.
You saw a moving truck.
He questioned. Jojo nodded and jabbed her thumb behind her shoulder with a grin.
Yeah, it's sped by the park out the street. Life isn't common to have people move into town. Would let people from across the country want to live in Green Hills just to see you.
See me maybe. People usually spend a holiday here instead.
He said, leaning to the side to examine the moving truck.
Moving into Green Hills is another thing. It's not a common thing to see people move here. That's what I've discovered over the years from observing the people here.
The two sat in silence, thinking of what else to say. Sonic couldn't help but glance to the truck on occasion as Jojo attempted some small talk. It fascinated him that a Penske truck was able to glide through town without a swarm of pedestrians buzzing around. Moving to Green Hills was very rare. Not many people know about its location, except for their neighboring town, Spring Valley. Normally the townsfolk would make it a big event just to catch a glimpse of the new citizen that rolled in, though he couldn't blame them for wanting to keep their distance this time. Within the year much had happened to all of them. A mysterious cloaked man with an ego the size of the moon did barge into town just to hunt him down, and he did make it public to the townsfolk, as well as the President of the United States, that he was very much present in their lives. They were still recovering from their own excitement. He could understand if they would need a day or two to adjust before engaging with the newcomer. Last time was ugly.
We should say hello.
The alien creature smiled softly, gently wagging his tail in approval.
Maybe we can be friends.
Jojo shot a worried glance. She bit her bottom lip and wrapped her fingers along the table.
Do you think that would be a good idea?
She said.
Mama said that sometimes people want space when they pack.
He thought for a second as he took a sip of his drink. He didn't have to be friends right away, but he could be a nice neighbor and welcome them to the neighborhood. Sonic stood, wrapping the freshly made donut in a spare napkin and held it close to his chest.
We can still be good neighbors.
He started off with a chagrin.
We can stop by and introduce ourselves, offer to help them move in, and then we can share some donuts and be friends.
In the year that she had known him, she found that when the alien hedgehog had a set goal in mind, he'd make sure to see it through until completed. Otherwise, he'd obsess over his unfulfilled plan.
You're not gonna give them that donut, are you?
She questioned.
Why would I?
He unwrapped the donut and gave it a good inspection.
I'm feeling a bit adventurous today, but mostly nosy. Come on, we can give them a donut as a welcoming gift as well. It will be perfect. Nothing screams welcome to Green Hills more than giving someone a freshly baked donut from Jilly's Donut Shop.
All right, amen. But you might want to rethink the welcoming gift.
Jojo pointed to the small row of teeth marks along the side with a smile.
Maybe get a new one before we head down there.
She always gave Sonic vintage bubblegum baseball cards to collect and talked about games when the season started. She was also great at playing baseball as well and helped coach Sonic's team.
He's been gone for a bit now.
She said with a warm smile, stroking the soft fur of a kitten on her lap.
The man should return shortly. I was asked to watch his cat, Saima.
From her understanding, the stranger took a quick trip to the corner store to get some light groceries for the night.
Did you get a good look at him?
Sonic asked, presenting his carefully wrapped donut to her.
We wanted to stop by and welcome them to Green Hills with our housewarming gift.
Millie smiled as she nodded. There wasn't much action by the time the Wachowski kids arrived to the site. The truck remained unattended with the hatches back wide open and boxes scattered on the sidewalk. A lone middle-aged woman sat on the bench outside of a building and waved to the two passing by. Millie, who ushered the two to come talk to her, was a friendly woman that owned the local pawn shop downtown with her wife. She liked to rent out living space above her shop for some travelers coming for the agricultural festivals in the early fall. Millie was cool lady anyways.
He's a very friendly man, a bit shy as well. I'm sure that he'll open up once when he gets settled in town. I didn't catch a name though. I wish I did. I would have liked to give him a proper greeting. It's rare to see people move to Green Hills, you know.
Why's that?
Jojo asked as she pet the Persian white kitten.
Green Hills is an agricultural and market town. Most of the folks here are either farmers, work the railroad system connecting to Victoria, British Columbia, or they're small business owners. Not much to do here unless you're into small businesses, agriculture, education, and environmental sciences here.
Cowboys.
A voice exclaimed from a rattling box. A spiky blue head popped out of a box. Styrofoam beans and bubble wrap draped over Sonic's spines and forehead as he smiled brightly.
We have cowboys here also. They ride their horses into town. Wear the 10-gallon hats, spurs, and everything.
Oh, yes. How could I forget about them? We're kind of ahead in game, Miss Jojo.
Millie laughed.
Once when you come here, you forget to leave.
The space hog rummaged around inside of the box he sat in, observing the many colorful knickknacks and trinkets that nestled closely to him as Jojo and Millie talked.
We can cross off farmer on the list.
He thought to himself.
There's lots of non-farmery stuff here.
To him, he always admired looking at the random items that people collected. It gave a sense of style and character to what the people were in life. Everyone's taste in aesthetics were unique and fun to observe. He found some novelty mugs, a couple of books on astrophysics and astronomy, even a framed medical degree rattled up beside his leg as he moved around in the box. There was also a pair of spikes that stabbed his back as he moved around. What on earth could it be? Annoyed, Sonic lunged a paw behind his back, only to retrieve a neon-colored shoe with a slightly worn-out sole. He traced the stitching with his finger with a smile and a hint of awe. They were a newer Puma model, one that he had seen in ads on television and online. They were a runner like him. Oh, how he couldn't wait to become their friend. They could go on morning jogs, take a lap around the country, and squeeze in a quick dash across the planet right before lunchtime.
Hey, Sonic.
He jumped a few feet in the air, startled that someone awoke him from his fantasy.
You don't.
No, you tore me shirt.
Sonic stated with a confused smile. Jojo rolled her eyes and laughed.
No, you silly says, huh? They're from Yukon. It's a bit further from San Francisco. It's a super cool place to visit in the wintertime and ski.
I wonder why he moved from Yuletol.
He paused to pronounce the word.
Yuletol sounds like fun with the skiing and the snow.
Maybe he moved because he wanted a change of scenery. People do that. Uncle Tommy wanted to do that and moved to San Francisco to be a series cup member.
He only wished to be alive and walk the very soul that the humans could and finally be in a place he felt comfortable calling home. Sonic wished that he could have taken back the argument. Maybe if he had been more civil it would have been okay. Maybe if he had listened to what Tom was trying to express it would have ended in a different outcome. If only...
What you thinking about, Space Hog?
Sonic shook his head, hoping to rid the pang of guilt from his mind. He gave a soft purr under his breath and rotated his head for her to pet all around.
Nothing.
He said softly.
Just old memories popping up.
I can understand that.
Jojo gave him a smile with a nod of her head.
We should probably head home. It doesn't seem like the man is coming back home anytime soon. Besides, I bet our family is wondering where we are.
Sonic placed the wrapped donut next to Millie on the bench and waved his goodbyes to her. The two left, both playfully chasing each other down the street in a game of tag. Their little swirls of laughter echoed through the town as they ran all the way home. The woman watched the two run down the sidewalk and smiled to herself.
You're probably right.
She thought to herself.
Life in Green Hills changed for good since we've welcomed that little ball of super energy into our lives. It's a good thing that the kid's so accepted and loved by the Wachowskis and the town.
Thank you again for watching So Why She Gets Scared Easily. She is alone in a new environment.
He said with a smile.
Think nothing of it, neighbor. And speaking of neighbor,
Millie reached over to retrieve the wrapped donut and presented it to him.
a couple of kids dropped by a little bit ago wanting to welcome you to Green Hills and give you a gift.
The man, thanking her, unwrapped the napkin to find a chocolate donut with pink sprinkles and a small row of teeth marks along the side. It was like reuniting with a long-lost friend. Just as she was about to do some raiding, a man in a neatly tailored suit and a paper bag filled with groceries walked up to her and bowed his head. He was all too familiar with that fact. Sonic only meant the best for Tom. He had never wished for the argument to be harmful. Sure, a few choice words and a temper tantrum was displayed, but he couldn't help it. Green Hills was a world that Sonic had always dreamed of existing in. It was a sanctuary. Just to know that at least one person in town would know that he, a real flesh and blood person, was something that he longed for. He wanted to be alive.
Well, at least Lil Wachowski tried.
She said with a chuckle.
The Spacehead Hub was very excited to bring you a small piece of home.
The man carefully wrapped good in its napkin again before placing it in the bag. Good. He concluded, it's going according to plan now.
A space hedgehog, you say? What a shame. I would have loved to have seen that.
The man questioned with a grin,